A fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. In any weather you will see us with a grin, risking head and skin. If we're behind, then never mind, we'll fight and win, for we're from Tigerland. We never weaken till the final siren's gone.
We're nearly there, folks. 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it is, until draft. It's I know it can feel like a bit of a drag, but it's a fun time of year to hypothesize, to play devil's advocate, to play recruiter, to do all those fun things and just bounce ideas off each other. Tonight, we're going to do that again, but I thought it'd be nice to get a Tiger flavor in. So usually we'll get other guests on from who support other clubs, and it is really good to get their perspective. Obviously, we've had Ruck and EJ in the house as well at various times, but we've got Shannon from Hoops and Football on, who's a mad Richmond supporter, as you would all know. Make sure you get around his channel first and foremost. Shannon, how are you, mate? Thanks for jumping on.
I am living the dream. It's almost draft time, and everyone's list keep changing constantly because they hear a whisper here and there. So it's fun to see what everyone else thinks now. So that's what I've been enjoying. I've got Tim sending me messages through Twitter with all these different ideas of like, oh, we can get Dylan Patterson if we pick him high enough because Gold Coast can't match him and they don't have enough points for the deficit because they gave away their first round pick for next year. So I sent a message into the Cal Toomey one on Twitter to see if he pops up, but I've asked, can he do the maths for us to see if Richmond could take Dylan Patterson because it's a high need. I don't know if you watched Dan Does Footy today.
Was that one Dill was on?
Yeah, he was saying that Dylan was saying if Gold Coast don't get him, that's their bad luck because wherever he goes, he's going to be great at football because he was born for it. So
he's going to be a good player.
And he's a need. It's a need. That's the thing. It's a need position, defender/elite winger.
And I'll be bitterly disappointed if we don't bid on him. I can't see us not bidding on him, but I mean, I kind of thought that we had, or that they had accumulated enough points to do so. I mean, there's manipulation they can do on the night as well, I guess, to hit it. But there's going to be one or two players they're not going to be able to get, and one of them could be primed for our pick in the 30s, which would be nice. But ultimately, even if we don't land the ones up the top, you still got to make them pay. And even if it's West Coast, go back to back, whatever it looks like. Because the beauty now, because we've got that pick in the 30s, the bidding actually makes it more important. The earlier the better, because it brings our other picking closer towards 30. It's 38 at the moment, and I guess at the start, people thought that was going to push out into 40s and 50s because of the academies and the father sons, but it's actually the other way. It's actually going to come in closer because of the amount of picks required to absorb all the points. So West Coast, bid your hardest, and I'm sure we'll follow suit.
Well, I hope we do, because it should be going off the talent, not where they're at, anything like that. So I did the maths and did the maths. I just don't think they have the points mathematically. Obviously, depending on where you bid at it, but if it's bid to like we predict that we think Zig Ewan would get bidded on, and Dylan Patterson at 4 or 5, they'll be short by at least over close to 400 points. So they're going to have to work some magic or give up on Dylan Patterson because they'll not have enough points to get the other 3 that they really want to get in. So Gold Coast have a tough decision, and I love the idea of Richmond putting it on them because they robbed us last year in a way, but they got Rioli off us. So they took our best running back wingman, so we'll do it to them.
We'll get him back. And what I love is the interview with Ry Geishan a little while ago when asked about those types of players, the academy players. And it was really good to hear from him that we treat them no different. So they've gone to their houses, done all the interviews, watched all their games, like their name's on the board like any other name, as if there was an open draft. So I know it would be stupid to think that they wouldn't have done the work on them just in case, but it's good to know they've still gone to the same lengths, even though they're interstate and whatnot, that they have done with the local boys.
Well, you'd be doing Richmond and the Richmond fans a disservice, in my opinion, if you didn't do, or you did diligence in a way of going to every player in that top 10 to 15 range, because you just never know where anyone's going to go. So it's the right thing to do, and I think we all know that we trust Ryan and Blair when it comes to the draft. They proved it last year quite well.
Now, to give everyone an idea of how much some mock drafts have changed, I was looking at a couple today from August, and even And that's why only a few months ago in August, we were linked largely to William Dersmer at pick 3 and Josh Lindsay at pick 4. So Dersmer obviously now sitting at number 1. Lindsay's a bit further down the table. Sharp was still all over the shop, but there was a few other names in the list that we aren't seeing now. So it's interesting just to see how much, I guess, the end of the season changes things in the draft combine, and then it's trying to piece together what needs clubs have post the trade period.
Yeah, well, even Brisbane's academy player was being spoken about being a top 5, and now there's talk that Richmond and West Coast probably won't bid on him, and it might be come up to the Bombers or the D's to have to make Brisbane pay up. So you'd be surprised how much things can change quickly, because we can look at Fred Rodriguez that you were quite high on. He was meant to be a top 15. Now it's looking at pick 50. So it's crazy how things can drop pretty quickly as well. Like Grill went from being pick 13, 15 to then he was pick 6 and back down to the teens. And now everyone's kind of going, well, it's more of a need. So he's going to go in that top 5 again just because of his elite pace. So the draft combine, I think, has sort of switched some people around. Not much, but it does help a fair bit considering, you know, Kubitov Tyler did a 6.6 minutes and 22 seconds in the 2K time trial at 200 centimeters. So that's an insane fitness for a guy that tall.
So on Grill and even Rodriguez in particular, what fascinates me with Grill, like his testing numbers were amazing. We've obviously seen what he did at VFL level for us. I'm still yet to sort of publicly see any other club linked to him in any meaningful way other than Richmond. Have you seen any other club linked in any meaningful way, or is it still just us? Because I don't know whether it worries me or whether it confuses me or what it does, because usually by now multiple clubs will have been linked to these teams at different points, but it just seems to be us.
Yeah, I haven't seen much. I have seen for a while the Bombers were linked to him, just because that was, I think, before the Merit non-trade went down. They were thinking about using him as that halfback runner, but that's died off pretty quickly as well. So maybe just everyone's just assuming that Richmond's going to take him no matter what. I know Jake Batchelor, but he loved him when he was down at our squad, and he had high praise for Richmond when he went back to under 18s. He said he's found his love and touch of the game again on what he was missing. So, I think the Bombers would take him if he was to slide down there, because they do need that. They are quite a slow transition team from halfback to the forward line as well, sort of what we are as well. So it's definitely a need for a lot of clubs. West Coast would need him as well if he was to magically fall to their pick. I think it's 13 or 14. I wouldn't see them not taking him. Be a good dash off the back for them as well. So D's would need him as well. I could see the D's as well. But
it's interesting because needs-wise he does fit the bill, but you just don't hear it verbalized, do you? And maybe that's deliberate by the clubs. Like obviously clubs want to play their cards close to their chest. Pommy's in the house as well, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Pom?
Thanks for subscribing, Pom. I just saw that about an hour ago I got a notification saying that Pommy subscribed to my channel. So thanks, mate.
Oh, he's a good man, Pom. He did some good things with your show. You were telling me before you were just loving his storytelling and the phrases he coins. He's one of a kind.
Definitely. Oh, Carlton. Yeah,
Carlton
I can
wins.
see. Yeah. I just think they're going to lose most of their assets with Harry Dean. I just think they're going to have to bid for him, and that pick will slide to I think it's I got 9 and 11. And I think once you match the points, it slides down to like 16. So I just don't think he's going to be around that pick.
And that's still going to be an okay outcome for Carlton. I mean, if they match the points for Dean, they take Dean for what he is. He's going to be a good player. But they'll still end up with a good player at that 16, 17 range. So I don't think Grill will get down that far, but there'll still be someone of good note. In terms of the top end of the order, obviously the big talking point in terms of, I suppose, who we've been linked to has been Sullivan Roby as a late bolter. There's been Xavier Taylor, Sam Cumming, CDT, Dyson Sharp. I mean, when you start reading the names out, it feels like we're in a bit of a win-win. I don't think we can go too wrong with any of those two. But what are your thoughts on those players that we've been linked to? Do you rate one higher than the other? Have you got any thoughts on who you would maybe like us to take or who you think we'll take?
If I had to pick just one as the as the first pick, I would love to go Southern Roby. I think he's the perfect player to match with Sam Lawler, where if you actually read both their draft profiles, Lawler was a midfield / forward, where Southern Roby is a forward / midfield, which that's a great combination because you know that Southern Roby can spend 60% time as a forward, 40% in the middle, and it's the exact same opposite as Sam Lawler, which the report was coming out of this year that next year they want Lawler to spend 60% in the midfield.
Yeah.
And I think Roby, with his size, height-wise, and he's not a skinny dude either, so he's quite stocky for his age. I think he could be the next Josh Caddy for us. I think we haven't really had that player for a while, that sort of big body mid that also goes forward and can just find the goals really easy. And I think Roby is probably could be that next player. I think we've really missed that type of prototype forward / midfielder.
I like that Caddy comparison, and especially because of how well he's worked on his forward craft as well to really get to work on the goal kicking side of things. 192 centimeters. He reckons he might get to 194. So, I mean, that's kind of getting towards key forward height, which is now almost midfield height. We look at Josh Smiley, for example. So I guess the question mark becomes, are we now getting too many tall players? And people will sometimes latch on to, I guess, his combine speed testing. But when you watch his highlights, I feel like he plays quicker than what his testing suggests. And I guess that's all that matters. Like, it's one thing to run in a straight line for your 20-meter sprint, but if you can think quick and react quick enough in game time, I feel like that holds a bit more weight.
With watch his highlights, he never runs in a straight pattern, and he seems to be sort of a Scott Pennery steel side bottom player where they just seem to always have the time and the space. I watched some of his highlights today, actually popped up on my TV, and I was watching it. Just seems to have the really good magic feet where players try to get him and he just takes 3 or 4 steps and they're too far gone, maybe because they're using too much speed. So I don't really think speed is an issue. There's some of the greatest players of all time weren't elite speed. They just knew how to run. The IQ was quite high and it worked for him. But it's definitely something he could work on. It might not be a giant jump in speed, but as we've seen, some players will go out and they'll work on their endurance more, find ways to run a bit harder, and give him a chance in the AFL system. He probably increases that speed a little bit as well. He doesn't make much. He's a giant guy as well.
He's not slow by any stretch. And I guess to Dan's question, if we do take Roby and CDT, does speed become an issue? And a few people have asked this, and the one thing that kind of sprung to mind for me a little bit was, if we cast our mind forward to next year, Tanner Armstrong, Archie Daffy, Jack Leese are all very, very quick and springy in their own right. I mean, Tanner, you maybe would like him to be a little bit quicker at the size he's at, but that can still take place. So I think we may be able to offset it a little bit next year. But then there's also the players we've currently got on the list that I know we've spoken about it before, that we're just not using in the right position. So I think if we actually manage our on-field positions with the players we've already got, we can kind of offset any of that like speed issue. I think we can fix it.
Well, as well, you'll have Lewis Callaway isn't a slow player either, and you've got that
he's
pick
not,
38, which I think that pick 38 is being slept on a little bit for a player. I've got 4 or 5 players on my list that are at pick 38 that their best attributes are their speed and athleticism as well. So you definitely could wait to that pick 38, which we know will probably slide into the early 30s and pick up a player that's an elite runner as well and with high speed. So you don't always have to do it with your first high picks. I think the first high picks for us are a want and then a bit of a need as well. You can do a bit of both. And then I think pick 38, we could adjust to get a player probably for that speed and wing type as well. And, you know, Ralph Smith isn't slow, and I'm not even going to say his name right, but it's Patrick. I can't even say his last name now. Patrick,
Rechko.
We got from Geelong. Rechko, that's it.
EJ smashed me for, and I butchered it 3 times. Rechko.
Rechko is he's a very good runner as well for speed. Those smalls are good as well. So I wouldn't even say Lawler is a slow player in general either. I think he's more that dusty style where they've got that first 5-6 steps are just they're powerful and explosive, which allows them to get away quite easy. Most elite midfielders, that's all they need, those few steps to get away, and they're off.
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
And this is a good point from Egg in relation to speed. I remember this time last year that everyone's massive criticism on Harvey Langford was he was as slow as a truck, won't make it in the AFL system, but he had a ripper year for the D. So it just goes to show that those test numbers hardly mean anything, really. It's all about applying it in real life footy. So what about the talk about Xavier Taylor as a potential option? I don't mind. Again, I wouldn't be upset if we landed Xavier Taylor playing as a defender. I personally think that he has some other positions he can play in the future that he's not yet been trialled in at coach level. And I think he feels that too, based on the chat we had. I guess I don't think it's a reach anymore, though. Like, by the time the picks come in, it's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it's going to be after all the bidding and shit happens. What do you feel about Xavier Taylor and potentially future-proofing for when Broad and Vlosten retire? Do you think it's too soon to do that? Are we better off going midfield strong?
No, I actually had my 2 picks were Roby and with Taylor as well. Both teammates, which I am pretty keen on that. Richmond seems to do that as a big trend of drafting players that have played together. I think it sort of mimicking what Gold Coast did, with their few picks at the start with Anderson and Rao to, they don't want to leave when they've got mates they've played along with. He shows great leadership, as we've seen through the Coates League Grand Final as well, was the best player. High IQ as well. Definitely has the drive and motivation. Who better to learn off than a Nathan Broad and Nick Velostone before they retire to fill in? And that's the thing. We're at that stage where we don't have to get these players and get him into the system straight away. Some people we actually can spend a year or two getting consistency through the VFL system as well before they get a game. Like, we don't have to just kind of jump him in there and try and fill a hole. We kind of have that right now. So I'm definitely all for it because he's a good height. He's not too tall. He's not too short. I think he's definitely that Broad replacement where he's strong enough to play on the semi-tall, second talls, third talls, but then can also play on your smaller players as well, which tends to feel a great need because we know Broad's going to hang the boots up next year, unless he plays good form and he decides he wants to go one more year. But it's a good replacement. We're going to need it in 2027. So who knows, might even be ready by then, considering he's quite a well-sized player at his age as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's I guess the question sort of becomes, where do we play him for the now? How does he fit into the current back line so we can learn from those players? Like, we already saw during this season just gone that we struggled to slot Luke Trainer back in there. And it sounds like that he will go back into the back line. Again, I'm not sure at whose expense. And you got Bolter and Miller, Gibkiss. Like, it ends up being a good problem. And that's why I feel like that someone like Xavier Taylor and to a lesser extent, Luke Trainer can play multiple positions. I know there's been a huge reluctance to play Trainer outside of the back line, and I can respect that and understand that. But, it's Cal Toomey, for what it's worth, has been hot on us taking Taylor for quite some time. But having said that, I do also keep reminding everyone that we all thought we were getting Bo Allen as well, and that was just a complete red herring from Blair Hartley and stooged every single person, including Cal. So I'm not saying that that's what Xavier Taylor is. I'm just saying that as a club, we're prone to putting a name out there at some point that throws people off the scent. Thank you for stopping by as well, Pom. Enjoy the rest of your night, mate. Thank you for your love and support. The other name, Shannon, that it's always makes things interesting. So if West Coast do take Dersma at 1, which we all think is going to happen, and if they do take Duff Tytler at 2, which has become a little bit more interesting given they just enlisted 2 young ruckmen in recent days. If Sharp's available at 3, we can't not take him. I know, well, I don't know why people have got knocks on him. I guess people just view plays differently, and that's okay. But he's been by far and away the best performed player of the champs. He's got leadership traits. He can win the ball inside. He can go forward and kick goals. People will question his pace, but again, it's not that bad. We can't pass him up, can we? If he's at 3, or can we? Or can we?
I think we can. Just not sure he's a need for where the club is at right now. I've seen a few videos where you said he'd be great in 3 years' time. I just don't see where he slots into the side. I think he'd spend most of his time in the VFL because I just don't see him unless, for touch wood, you see Hopper or Taranto go down because that's what the type of player I see him as. That slow, don't get me wrong, he's a very, very good player. Was one stage rated to be the best player in the comp with the leadership, but he's also a bit of a dog in him where I was watching some of these videos, and when they're not winning big, he doesn't really kind of care as much. But when they're down in the mud and they got to fight hard, he tends to step up a level, which is a really good trait to have. It's just not a need for us right now. We've already got that sort of prototypical inside mid. Sort of need to be a dual position player. I know he can go forward, but I think if you're going to go for what's best available and a need, is why I would go Roby over him. As good as he is, you could dangle that carrot maybe over the Ds, because I know the Ds are really hot on Dyson. You would replace Petrarca and Clayton Oliver. That's a need for them. And maybe even you could probably dangle that carrot over bloody Essendon as well. So I'm not a fan of him. Like, I love his great player and elite. I think I agree with you. He has been quite disrespected for his ranking, because I've seen it. Some drafts he went at pick like 11 or 12, and I was like, that's pretty bad. He should be falling bottom 6 or 7. But if they didn't pick anyone, I would have gone to Patterson before I would go after Dyson Sharp.
And this question from Rising Phoenix is the most common one. If we were to hypothetically draft Roby and Sharp, how does it then work with Smiley and Lawler? In my mind, the best way it will work is 2 start in the midfield, 2 start at half forward, and then they rotate. And then so that way you haven't got all 4 in at the same time, and you can put someone. So imagine a starting midfield. I'm talking more longer term, I guess. Let's say it's Nank or Sims rucking, whoever it might be. Taj Houghton in there with Lawler and Sharp, and then Smiley and Roby occupy half forward and they rotate in there. I just think, and I've said it before, but when you look at your Brisbane's, your Gold Coast, and how deep their midfield bat on different lines being able to rotate in, so you've pretty much got constant A graders flowing through there. That's where I think we need to get to as a club. And I'm not saying that Sharp has to be the one that does that. I mean, I really do think Roby is definitely one that does. I think Cumming can do that role too. And I think maybe to your point, possibly that Cumming, I think, has some better forward craft than Dyson Sharp, which is maybe a bit more appealing. Would that be a fair assessment? Would that be where you would lean as well? If you were to pick 2 hybrids to go midfield forward, would you prefer Cumming?
Yes, if I had to. I've also seen Cumming play against the seniors over in South Australia. And he seems to be a player who's a lot more comfortable playing against bigger men who will. They gave him a lot of. If you've seen some of the videos, they gave him a lot of shit. They bumped him. They hit him hard.
Yeah.
When he was opened up, they laid into him, and he just got up and shaked it off. And I think he maybe even went higher if he didn't hurt his shoulder.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
he definitely would have been a lot higher in the ranking system. Unfortunately, he just hurt himself and wasn't going to get back in time to kind of show his talent. But I do agree with John. We do have Kane McAuliffe, which I think is a Dyson Sharp-esque player. I just think Kane McAuliffe is actually a lot faster by foot as well than Dyson Sharp is. But if you had to maybe choose between a need, it would be, Roby or coming over Dyson.
It's interesting. And like even just reading through chat, Sharp is like so divisive between everybody. It's quite fascinating. And I guess it comes down to what everyone's views, the different needs and wants are. Cooper Duff Tyler, he's for me the other one that I think is really hard to place whether it's good for Richmond or not. As a talent for talent player, he does some things that players shouldn't be able to do at his size. And apparently he's at 202 now, not 200 centimeters. And you watch his highlights reels, and someone made a good point. Like, is he just a bigger version of Roby? I think Roby probably is obviously a bit more nimble, but I suppose the question marks on CDT are his actual ruck work at the moment, but that's where you learn that kind of stuff in the AFL environment. So when it comes to things that can be taught and learnt in AFL environments, I'm probably not too fazed by it. But how do you see Duff Tyler fitting into the Richmond Football Club should we draft him?
Well, if we were to draft him, if that's what you were saying, he would have to put on some weight, because I'm just not sure, is he an actual ruck forward or is he going to be a forward ruck? Because his under-18s coach hit-outs were 17, where who he's sort of rated similar to is Luke Jackson from Fremantle, and he was averaging 30, was actually over 30 hit-outs per game in the under-18s. The only good thing was that when Jackson got drafted, he got drafted into the Ds where he had Maxi Gawn sort of to teach him as well. Now, Cooper Duff type would be going in with probably the toughest ruckman maybe that have ever walked green earth in Toby Nankervis, who will teach him how to ruck. I'm just not sure, does he actually have the body size to be a ruckman? That's the only thing not sure.
Straight away. And that's where I get stuck with this as well. He's no bigger than Sims, really, at the same point in time. And none of us would feel comfortable throwing Sims in as number one ruck, I wouldn't have thought. The new rules do make it interesting. Not so much for next year, because, again, you still need to be a bit bigger. But for the 2 or 3 years down the track, it definitely will give him an advantage where Nank is probably at a disadvantage, to be honest. He's not really a run and jump type ruckman. But his ball use is good too. Like, I'd love to know if before he shot up was CDT a midfielder at any point, because these big guys now seem to be so clean and good with their ball use that they must have had some decent exposure at it.
Yeah, I definitely think so. He might have been a Roby sort of another player where he jumped up and it was really unusual for it. But I mean, if we didn't draft Sims last year, then I think you would see every Richmond fan being, don't trade this pick, take Cooper Duff Tyler. I just think that we've drafted the exact same type of a player. And actually might be the player we have, Sims, actually might be slightly even a bigger body frame already naturally. You know, we've seen Sims, he's got quite a wide chest. So I think Sims will fill out to a bigger size ruckman. So maybe your Sims does become your number one ruckman, and then if you do draft Cooper Duff Tyler, then he just becomes that player, what Sims is now. He just fills in, kicks goals, does the ruck work in the 50 as well. So you don't have to make like a Nank. What we do now is you try not to have Nank go into the 50 at all to give him that chance to breathe when the ball's down there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes to us and we try and use it to dangle that little carrot over the Bombers and the Ds, who are yet again linked to Cooper Duff Tyler quite highly as well. And I get why the Ds are, because they have Max Gawn, and
the perfect teacher.
If you could pair them together for the next 2 to 3 years before Gorney retires as maybe the grass ruckman of all time, then you're probably going to have a good win for the next few years as well. And he can still play next year as well.
I actually think Melbourne are the best suited club for him, because who can teach him? They've done a bit of a clean out and a mini rebuild as well, not as deep as what we've done. And by the time that all takes place, he'll be primed to take over. I actually think it's a perfect fit, to be honest.
It's not sure what the Ds are going to want to give up. Like, that's the only problem. Like, they don't have anything besides 7 and 8, and then pick 37. I think that's all they've got. I think they've got a couple other picks, but they need that for I think it's White, which is a father and son as well. They've got coming in as well. So they're going to have to give up pick 7 and 8, or pick 7 and a future pick from Gold Coast, something like that. But not against that, but who knows?
What West Coast do will dictate what we do next, but I've got no doubt that we'll field some big phone calls, I think, from the Bombers and from Melbourne, like you said, in regards to whether it's for Roby or whether it's for Duff Tytler. So there's going to be some big calls for the club to have to make. I still can't see a world where a club is going to trade a future first for this year's draft. I think people will have learnt from North Melbourne's mistake last year with us.
That's different. Give up pick 28 and pick 20, and gave up pick 28, and we gave up pick 20. Was it 23 this year for pick 3? Yeah, that's a different scenario.
So I can't see teams wanting to jump out of next year's draft. So I think if we're going to be trading, it's going to be getting multiple picks in this year's draft, which I'm not against. Like, I did put forward a hypothetical where Essendon might acquire pick 15 from the Gold Coast Suns, give them 2 more picks for points, and then they could trade 5 and 15 to us for 3 or 4, whatever it might be, on the proviso they take Duff Tyler, and if that's who they were after, and we take Roby or whatever it looks like, and then we get an extra pick in the teens as well. So there's plenty of ways it can definitely work. And the red herring comment, absolutely, Roby could be one of those red herrings. If you consider Roby, Xavier Taylor, Cumming, CDT, any of them could legitimately be Blair throwing out a name to drum up interest to try and get a good trade. Because I have heard he did like the Death Ride segment we did, and he wants to see another chart next year. So he's trying to work some magic for us.
We did it 3 times last year, if you guys really think about that. We did Luke Trainer, Harry Armstrong, which was insane how both of them were meant to be roughly in the top 10. One was picked 21, one was picked 23. And I think we threw the red herring in for Taj Houghton as well, saying we weren't going to take him a little bit later on, and maybe even Jonty Fall. So it looks like Blair has his fingers on all the buttons to make sure that people are a bit worried and not sure what's going on. I think Richmond might be the best drafting team in the comp. They just seem to... Everything stays in-house. Nothing ever seems to ever leak and get out.
It's crazy.
They always seem to pull off the best sort of draft steals in the last few years as well that no one expects.
And I can say, even from first-hand experience, even the people I know in draft and recruiting circles very close to the club still don't know anything from the club that they would typically, any other time of the year, are typically pretty good. They still have no idea, which is good. It's good from a club perspective, but I've seen a lot of people talking about wing as a position, and I think it's one that maybe you and I both maybe touched on with our pick 38 scenario. So we'll chat about that quickly, because the pick 38 that we acquired, as we mentioned, that's going to come into pick 31 to 33, which is awesome. That makes it a really good deal for Tyler Young, to be honest. I don't begrudge him for leaving either. He's making a big payday in the one chance he gets to do so, and we've obviously got our monetary plans in place of what we can and can't pay people, and it is what it is. But if we end up with a pick 31 to 33, I straight out don't think that's going to be used for Louis Callaway. I do think we will be able to acquire him for free for a token pick later on. Worst case, we use a future and trade back in. So with 38, we'll call it 38 because that's the number we know it is for the now, in play, what player types did you have links to this, or as a possible link in for this type of pick to help in certain spots?
One of them was Matt Larray, because it's a positional need. It's a wing. He is a crazy one for most people maybe not know, but he's actually only ever had one preseason since he's played football. So he was a very interstate cricketer. He was a very good cricketer. So he's very much similar to Sam Lawler. You can even look up on the Rookie Me draft profile. He becomes off that Lawler prospect sort of in a way, where no preseason. So he's had a half preseason coming up to this year, and that's it. So he was at one stage rated to be in the top 20 and was guaranteed he'd be a top 20 prospect. It's chopped off a little bit. It's not the end of the world. Doesn't mean anything really. So I had Matt Larray as that strong wing with good aerobics, good overhead mark, good kick as well. Sort of they said he needs to work on a little bit more of a kicking accuracy, but I don't really worry about that. We all know that everyone says that for every player that they see in the draft and they're not sure.
You're right.
It seems to be a common thing that these players can't kick, and most of them are just a simple improvement, and I understand why they have it there. But once they come into an AFL system and they do this every single day, constantly, it still gets better every single time. So it doesn't faze me with Matt Larray. I think he'll be a very good one as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. So this graphic here, so I've got a video dropping tomorrow as well, folks, on my pick 38. So Matt Larray, like Shannon, was well and truly in my mix. To this point, I think if we could have Barker as Harley Barker as the preference, I think is absolutely where it would be. There's just almost next to no chance of him lasting to that pick. If he does, wonderful, but I don't think that will happen.
I forgot where Noah Connor says he did mention he's actually ambidextrous. So he can kick on both feet the exact same. Yeah. Yeah, which is great for a wing position player, considering Ooze kind of favors the whole right foot, left foot on each side.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, he does like that.
So you have one who can just do both automatically. It doesn't really matter what position on the wing, what side you put him on. So
yeah. Kick-It, we were talking about earlier that he's now sort of spoken about in the 20s area. So wrong one.
That's the other Pickett. There's two in this year's draft.
Oh, there's two. Oh shit.
Yeah. So there's Latrell Sumner Pickett, and that's
so
Leon
Latrell's
Pickett,
one in the 20s.
Which I will be doing a video on Leon Pickett, who has been rated to be very similar to Leon Davis, who used to play back in the day. But yeah, very good player, a small, nimble forward as well. So he will be up there. I'm not 100% sure. West Coast might take him with one of their picks as well. They've got enough to get him on. So,
who else did you have at your pick 38 mark? What other play types can you see maybe being available It's almost a free hit for us.
One that I think most Richmond fans would be happy because he'd be sticking it up to the Geelong club. Hunter Holmes, which is a really good runner. Not quite as good as what his brother is, but no one knew how good he was going to be either. But he's a midfield / winger or winger / midfield, depends on how you want to do him. Very similar to his brother as well, and I would definitely love to take him. He's rated between 30 and 50. It all just really depends on what Geelong wants to do to get him, but I wouldn't be saying no to picking up Hunter Holmes.
If he's got athletic traits, anything like Max, I'm all for it. I keep getting flashbacks. I think he had about 8 bounces against us, I reckon. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Another one I had down, I'll bring this one up because I saw his name mentioned in the chat. Riley Onley's another one who I think will be there at about this pick. And it's a really interesting one with Riley because he was touted in the top 10 or 15 at the start of the year and then kind of just faded away. I think a lot of it was to do with maybe he wasn't as damaging by foot as maybe other players were. And there's, I guess, a consistency bit as well. But I know what the questions are going to be straight off the bat from everybody about him. Do we need another big body midfielder? 195 centimeters, but this guy's actually quick. And even though he didn't test at the National Combine, they did a pre-season testing and he would have tested top 2 in the 20-meter sprint, vertical jump, and running vertical jump if he had those times carried over to the National Combine. So he's actually a bit of a different beast. He's very clean with the ball as well, picking it up, very one-touch. I don't quite know why he slipped. I think he made All-Australian as well for under-18s after his champs. So I can see him being around that mark. And again, it probably depends on who we take with 3 and 4. If we do take 2 bigger body players, there's probably not the need to do this. But if Roby's gone, for example, and we've gone with Grill and let's say Xavier Taylor or Cumming, I think you can maybe then look at a Riley Onley to fill another spot at that 38. But yeah, I think it'll just depend on what will happen at the start of the draft. What about Fred Rodriguez? He was another one that we spoke a little bit about off air. Where do you see him falling? Because he's another one that could be in this area.
I definitely think he will be. It's hard to tell because he's went from being like maybe the top 5, top 10 player. I'm not sure if he got injured or something must have gone wrong by injury or form, but it wouldn't be against taking him because he does have a very good, very good speed as well. Not against it. I'm not sure Richmond will take him considering how much he's slid. I mean, it's got to be a reason why he's dropped that much and so quickly as well, because only halfway felt like through this year that he was touted to be, or could we even get him with our pick? Will he be around still? So, and that's not the only player either. Like I've got the other one is Lewis Emmett. He was meant to be a top 10 prospect as well. And he's dropped down into between 25 and 40 now. So, which is a ruck / forward at 202 centimeters. So it's quite surprising how much some of these players who were touted at the start of the year to be maybe the next big thing to now maybe not even make it in this year's draft.
It's crazy. It makes me wonder how much of it. I don't know how much impact clubs could have on anything like that with their name being out there, but it makes me wonder if some clubs try and keep players quiet. The other one that I want to go after is Jai Murray, who was a Gold Coast Academy linked player. And the reason why is I don't think they'll have enough points to be able to get him. He did cop an injury throughout this year that did sideline him. It was a foot injury from a nasty tackle, but they just sort of kept him on the sidelines for precautionary. But he pretty much made his mark as a wingman and then started to transition into a midfielder as well, kind of like a Noah Anderson clone. But yeah, averaging 77.5 tackles and 23 disposals from a handful of games. He's got that poise, he's got that class, good decision maker, good execution with his targets, has the speed. I unfortunately think he might go a bit higher than what I'm hoping. I reckon he might creep into that mid-20s range. I think people are starting to cotton onto him. But if he doesn't, I would be 1,000% throwing our hat in the ring for him at our pick in the 30s.
So in the rookies central, they've got it pick 29.
So it'll be close. It'll be close.
It'll be very close, depending on what other clubs want. Whether if Gold Coast realise they don't have the points and can't do the trade for Dylan Patterson, then they have a chance to probably get the rest of the other 3 academy players quite easily. My other player I had was another Gold Coast Academy player as well, which was Bo. I think it's Adelson. I think that's how you pronounce it. Not very good at pronouncing the name.
Adensul, yeah, I think Bo Adensul.
Adsel, which is draft range. He's 182 centimeter midfielder, and he's drafted between pick 20 and pick 30. But he doesn't even come up. I think does he come up on the radar for pick 24 in the Central Rookie Draft? What they power rank him as. So
yeah, okay.
He's another really good player as well. So he's a hard worker, small forward, capable of covering plenty of the territory and racking up a wealth of possessions as well. So he was under Gold Coast's under 16's MVP in 2023. So he's a very consistent player, and he's played a lot of VFL game as well. So he's had a chance to play against the big boys this year as well, whilst not playing Coach League. He did a few VFL. I think he might even played against us as well.
And I guess after going through all of those sort of names, it's just good to know that we've got options. Like, it just shows, and I think a few people have spoken about it, that the draft was kind of touted as shallow, maybe from an A++ generational talent perspective, but from a talented footballer perspective, there's still going to be some good names at our pick in the 30s. So it's going to be interesting to see what we do draft night. Now, deficit-wise, you can only go into deficit by a certain amount, TL, and I think even with the first two picks, if the bids come in early, they will already be at that cap point for their deficit, if I'm not mistaken. You might know a bit more about that.
Don't quote me on this. I could be wrong, but I think to go into deficit, you need to have a first-round pick for the following year, and they don't have a first-round pick for next year because they traded away in the Petrarca deal. So,
or is it? I don't know if it's a pick for. Or is it a pick in the relevant round where you're going to deficit?
Points to go to deficit, so you're going to have a pick from somewhere that's valued at over 1,000 points. So I just not. I could be wrong, but from what I've heard is that it's going to make it harder because they don't have a first round pick for next year.
It's such a confusing system. System. All we know is everyone bid your asses out so we can try and fleece someone somewhere down the track at some point in time.
Oh, please do! I love Dylan Patterson on our team. I agree. If you watch, apparently he has had an interview where he said that if they don't draft him, he'll go anywhere and he doesn't care. It's their own fault. But he did say that clubs hadn't been speaking to him because they just automatically assume that he'd be going to Gold Coast. So,
and good, because I don't believe that we'd be one of those clubs. I think we're almost certainly one on the other side of the ledger where we are talking to him. And I found that,
You'd hope so. Well, you think that the Ds and once the Ds and Essendon and Richmond all found that they were going to be in the top 10, you think you'd be asking the questions just in a hypothetical world where he slides or Gold Coast decide to have the points and take him. So,
yep. Mr. Stokes, so if Essendon were to knock on our door and make a phone call to Mr. Hartley on draft night in relation to wanting pick 4, the best way I can see this playing out is if they... I would assume that this is going to be for Duff Tytler or Roby, would be my assumption. So I would suggest that they would go to Gold Coast first and they would trade pick. I think I've got it off my screen somewhere. So they would trade pick 21 and 27, I think it is. Yeah. So Essendon would trade 21 and 27 to Gold Coast for pick 15. So that gives Gold Coast some extra points, which might actually hurt me in my quest to get Jai Murray, but that's a different scenario. And then that would then mean that Essendon could trade us pick 5 and pick 15 for pick 4 or pick 3, whatever way it has to work to make that deal. So that way we get 3 picks in the first round. We slide back one spot. We still get back-to-back picks, but you just want to know and make sure they weren't going to take the play that we wanted. And I truly believe that clubs have unwritten rules and handshake agreements behind the scenes when it comes to the top 10 only. I think they're very nice to each other in that regard. After that, I think it's all fair game. So if we were able to get 5 and 15 for pick 4 or for pick 3, whatever way it works, that means you still get a Roby, a Cumming, a Grill, a Taylor, but then you might also be able to get someone like a Farrow at 15, which I know was someone that you've quite liked as a bit of a bolter.
Yeah, I think Farrow's starting to kind of grow on me as well. Probably some people have talked about he's actually better than Josh Lindsay as that defender / midfielder that has the elite kicking, slight a bit of knock on his defense. Probably not as much as what Lindsay's has been spoken about that Lindsay really needs to work on his defense. He tends to drift away when the players are attacking, more of an attacker than he is a defender. So that's a bit of a two-way issue. Big fan of Lockie Doverston as well. I know people say, do we have enough smalls? But you find a player in the last 5 or so years that played in the under 18s and kicked 50 goals. In the season, for Coates League, he averaged 2 goals a game, which was more than Nick Watson, the Wizard. So even in the grand final, I think he got 2 goals and got 25 plus disposals. Loves a tackle as well. He's very hard at it. He's sort of another Liam Baker, just more of a forward than he is a backman. So
tell you who I'd go for at 15. Harley Barker. That's where your Harley Barker can land as well. Yeah,
that was my other one. I've got names down. I've done a top 10 players I've done for Richmond from 1 to 10 on which is ranking them for the most need. And I have Harley Barker at number 10. And I've even got Hibbins Hargrave as there as that sort of little sprinkle and cherry on top of the draft if you were to split a pick as well, because Hibbins Hargrave would just be a luxury player to have in our category in our team this year.
Yeah, it would be another good one to have in there. It would just open up so many more talented players to come in at that pick. And we do have 4 list spots, so we could do like 5, 6, before 5, 15, 38, and then the only thing would be there in that scenario, either we have to take Callaway with 38 or we're banking on him. I wouldn't mind. If we're getting someone at 15, I don't mind using the 38 on him or whatever that ends up being. Yeah. I just don't see him getting to a rookie spot. I think that we would completely miss him altogether if we tried that. So I think we would have to commit to that pick. And I'm okay with that too. I think that's fine.
I also wouldn't be surprised if you did do that the Bombers ask for pick 38 back in the draft, just because they've got a couple of small forwards in this year's draft that are ready to go between 20 and 30, and they probably would need the points because they'd give up those later picks. I think it's Adam Swede is his name. He's a small forward in their NGA Academy, so they would have to probably ask pick 38 back for that, just for some points as well if they're going to give up their 2 picks in their 20s just to get 15 and then to trade it as a way. So you'd be a bit of give and get.
They might do that.
Which then doesn't matter because we're still predicting that Callaway's going to slip past. I think it's pick 54, which is when the points stop. I think pick 54, the points invalid are 54. So
we still should be okay to pick him up there, but we'll find a way. And I'm really hoping we do get Louis Callaway. He I thought he had a super year for Sturt. I reckon he's honestly been really hard done by with the way he's been judged, which ends up being a good thing for us because it's going to cost us less. But I do think he'll come in and play a really good role, probably to start with a VFL level, but he just does so much really, really well. And like you said before, he's not a slouch, not slow by any stretch. And he always seems to make the right option with his passing. And I think he's going to slot in really nicely at the club.
Yeah, he gives off a bit of Sam Banks vibes as well, where he loves to give the player the ball off, but he also loves to get it on the handball and run and use his quite good running abilities, good kick as well. Seems to find the ball, not shy of being hit. I've seen some of the height of his dad. I probably watched his dad play when I was younger and I used to live in Melbourne, but I was quite young, so I couldn't remember every single thing off by heart from me as a young kid. So
now this is a good point from Tigers. If we bid too much this year, clubs might pay us back next year and bid early on Armstrong, Daffy and Lease. Now, that might have an element of truth to it, no doubt, but I think as well, as long as you're bidding where the player rightfully fits, I think it's hard for teams to get pissy at that. I mean, Patterson, I think, is universally top 5. So I don't think it's not a reach. And end of the day, if you bid on a player just to take the piss and you don't actually want the play and you get stuck with them, then the joke's on you, I guess. Armstrong will be the one I'd be maybe most concerned about at this early stage. I think he's kind of in that top 15 to 20 range currently, like plenty to play out. But yeah, Daffy and Lees could jump up a little bit at the end. But as long as it's all relevant, I reckon teams are okay with it as long as it's in the realm of where the player deserves to go.
Yeah, well, I think Blair even said that you got to understand that they spoke to players that, like Callaway, they said like they can't guarantee we're going to be able to pick you up. And these kids must understand that you get a chance to play a game that a lot of us would give an arm and a leg to be able to play a professional career at. So, yeah, I think you should just go where you get picked. I I don't think I would agree as father and son shouldn't change. I just love the father and son rule. I think the nostalgia rule is great, and I think it's just about time Richmond finally had some, because we've had one really good one, and I grew up watching him my whole entire life. The great Matthew Richardson. I remember growing up watching him and watching him punch the grass and flip the bird off, and went to go and have an interview with him down in the rooms, and he was in a bad mood, so he didn't want to do any interviews, so he shrugged everybody off and went straight to the showers and left. So it'd be nice to have some for once.
It would be good. Interesting question. Do you think that we will ever get to the NFL stage where teams can trade picks as well as players on draft night?
I think you can trade picks on draft night, not the players. I think they're going to have to soon, because it just seems like these players kind of get whatever they want and they don't seem to give much back. So with this whole, we can leave, just request a trade whenever we want, even though we've got 3-4 years, we're paying you $1 million a year. That would be my deal. It's like, all right, well, you are more than welcome to request a trade and leave whenever you want, but we're going to follow the NBA system. We can just trade you. You can go where you want, when you want. There's no big deal about it. So you guys get paid very well. I know they complain they don't get paid much money, but I did time in the Army, and these guys get paid twice as much as I was when I was on call 24/7. I didn't get 22 weeks off a year. So
if you're contracted, you go wherever the best offer is.
Yep.
Wise, I didn't see the video of Callaway saying Sharp should be the number one pick, but that doesn't surprise me because you could tell just from watching the champs, you could tell they have an extraordinarily good football working relationship. And I said this back when the champs were on, and this is not a slight on Sharp. It's more of a compliment to both of them. But if Sharp was getting 25 touches a game, 12 of them were because Louis Callaway fed it out to him. So they had a brilliant understanding of where each other were and the roles that they both played within that side. And that's why SA was so dominant, because every player bought into the exact role they were there to do. There was not one bit of selfishness going on, and they just shit on everybody. But that comment from Callaway doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, it would be another way if we did decide to pick Dyson Sharp, where you may not be too concerned that he'll leave. A lot of players get selected and they just go by themselves. They've got nobody there. They've got to learn to build new friends, and it's their first time away. Where Dyson would have Callaway, he spent most of his juniors, playing with as well. So that would be a sort of safety net there. That he probably won't leave because he's got a good mate there.
Yeah, true. And Bowden, yes, he was a good father-son as well. Good shout. Is Callaway a player we want to take because he's a father-son prospect, or do we think he can be useful in our side? I've always felt he can be useful. I think there's definitely a bit more of an element to it being father-son. I think he can play a role. I think he might have to buy his time because the position he'll likely play, we've got a few people in, but I think he can definitely play a role for us for sure.
Yeah, I would say both. That it's the nostalgia of the father and the son, but he's also a very highly talented kid as well. I think he's been slept on. He might have been up there with maybe one of the most consistent players in the draft as well. He just never seemed to have a bad game. He just never seemed to be the shining light. And that's not a knock on him. He was playing with Dyson Sharp, which probably makes it quite hard to really stand out. But he doesn't really have a flaw. And that's the crazy part. He just does everything at a B plus. Doesn't go A, doesn't go below the B. He just stays at B plus, and he's just so consistent, which is very hard to find in a junior these days.
He was ultra consistent the whole year. It was really impressive. How's that? Smiley, Lawler, Roby, hot and really exciting for 2026 season. And Taylor on the wing. I like the forward thinking there. I think that would be very exciting to watch if that was able to eventuate. All right, we're going to try an exercise now using everyone in chat as well. And this was an idea from Jones Racing on Twitter. It was a really, really good one. Firstly, I'll just say, ignore the writing I've already got on here. This was just me stuffing around. So we'll override this. But we often hear about draft power rankings, which is typically what we all see until mock drafts occur. And the definition, I guess, of the power ranking is where the player is ranked within that draft on skill, ability, etc., etc. But Jones Racing's idea that he wanted to see was, could we do a Richmond-based power rankings where we actually power rank the players based on what is a need for us? I thought a really cool idea that I haven't explored doing myself yet, but I thought we could go through it. Like I said, this was just me stuffing around, so we'll wipe out a few of these names. But Look, what do you reckon about William Dersma? I did intentionally put him in there at 1, and only because I think he could be a winger, right? Like at his height, I know that I get that people don't like him because of his surname, which I think is a load of rubbish anyway.
Don't count that. Cross that out.
No, in terms of an actual need to our side, I think he would actually power rank number 1, and rightfully so, because he would fit in to that wing role for us perfectly.
Yeah, I definitely think he would. It'd just be so hard to find a spot for him. I don't have him ranked number 1, only because I'm presumption of he's just going to be gone. That's sort of how I did my draft ranking as players that Richmond could technically get. But Willem Dersma would be right up there with probably the top 2 players for a need basis as well. I'm just not sure what his position is yet. And I just don't think Richmond need that unsure player, where I agree West Coast do need it, because they've just got holes everywhere in their team. And they don't have much leadership going around right now. So they don't. He can play off half back for him. He can play off the wing. He can play half forward. Then he can pinch hit in the middle when they need him to.
So as a power ranking for what we need, who did you have at 1? Who would you have ranked as the number 1 player that we need?
Dylan Patterson. I had Dylan Patterson as my power ranking number 1 for that explosive wingman/defender. All of his traits are just pretty much primed to be on a Richmond's wing position in yellow and black, just so that it stuffs up Damien Hardwick as well.
I actually hadn't considered him, but I think that's a really good shout. If Patterson was 1, would you have Dersma at 2?
Yeah, you kind of have. My ranking doesn't have you in it because I went with the whole off our pick. So I went with the whole who would be at our pick as a power ranking. So I had Sullivan and Roby at pick 2 for us.
Okay,
because I'm going off what's available, and we're all saying that Dersma's going to go at pick 1.
You don't want to factor him in at all.
Yeah, I'm factoring in what's going to be available for Richmond on the night. So that's what I went with as well. So chance to be split picks as well. That's what I've kind of got plays in there that would be in my ranking. Also, if you split picks really helps.
Who would you have as the 3rd most needed player for Richmond in a Richmond-based power ranking? So this is where I think Grill could place high.
Yeah, Grill is high on mine, actually. But I've gone a Tiger-born Richmond supporter in Xavier Taylor.
Really? You've got him at 3? Okay.
Yeah, I just love him as a defender. He just feels like he's that player ready to step in and just take over for... He gives off so much Nick Vlosten vibes. The way he runs, the way he kicks, the aggression he has on it, never seems to have a single fear in him. And he's obviously learned over time to just trust himself and back himself. He makes mistakes, We've seen Nick Vlosten have some bad stuff-ups round 1 straight away, but still, how good was his year, even though a couple of mistakes that I just love him. He's a very good player, and he stands up in the biggest games as well. That's just another trait that you tend to not see all the time because they don't make it to the finals. He got there and just stepped up every single game.
No, fair enough. Number 4. So when I did my one on the side, I actually had, and I'm saying this because of the comment from Jack that's popped up, I actually had Harley Barker high, like top 5 high, as someone that Richmond needs. And I know it won't help us next year, but that's okay. We're going to be, fighting down the bottom for a little bit longer. How high would you factor in Harley Barker into this being a designated wingman which is a spot that we aren't healthy in?
Probably pick 5 for me. I've got Grill next.
You got Grill
dashing
next.
halfback to midfield, and then I've got Barker. You probably slide.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, you could slide if you really want to. You could slide him down more because of the injury, but like you're saying, Richmond has that time to not stress about it. Do it.
Yeah.
Do a Taj and look how good Taj turned out.
Exactly right. And I'm in the same mentality for Harley Barker. If he misses 3/4 of next year, it doesn't really bear any relevance on our season. But if we have our wings sorted for the next 10, 12 years because of it, I think it's a really good outcome. All right, who would you have at number 6?
The player I've been pretty keen on for a while, I just don't think he's going to go to us, but Sam Cumming. Forward/midfielder who can play against the big players. really good penetrating kick. Has quite a good leap, great hand to foot skills, and can find the goals quite easily somehow, just like Roby.
I like him. I like any of those players would be wonderful gets. Who would you have at 7?
Dyson Sharp.
Ooh, yep.
You just kind of go past his skills, and a leadership player as well. So we're not going to be short on leaders, but he's just shown through the juniors that he can be a leader from under 16s to now. And that's only going to grow. So if you got him in, you could say 3-4 years. If you know he's committed, he could definitely be a vice captain. And 6 years' time, he could be our captain and lead our club to the next grand final. So I would not be surprised if he's a captain in within 5-6 years of his career. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wins a Brownlow in his first 10 years.
Leadership written all over him. Ash, I don't think anyone's saying our team's good, but I do think that we are in a unique position where we don't need to draft best available talent. I think we can actually weigh in needs blended into that a bit more heavily weighted because of our haul from last year. People can disagree and have different thoughts, and that's okay. I think it's just a fun exercise to see what players we would rank as the most required based on this draft. And I think it's quite evident that midfield depth and that can double up into some front half attacking prowess is sort of what everyone's feeling might be the top of the list. CDT will slot in there somewhere, but I guess there'd be a large majority of people that would say you would trade for a ruckman. And I personally tend to agree with that. But
so
I think we've got a lot more holes in our midfield and more to come, especially around the half-forward line. We've got Taranto and Hopper that's going to leave soon, Prestia. I know Nank's going to leave soon, but there's also going to be a heap of second-string ruckman for other clubs that we can bring in. So, again, no one's at all suggesting that our teams currently swing well and motoring along nicely, but I definitely don't subscribe to the theory that you have to draft best available. I think in our position, because of what we had last year, we can factor in need as well, which isn't too far apart from best available, to be honest. I don't think it's too different at all.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is best available just by talent or by position that you need to fulfill? Like last year, we would have got our 2 big dominant midfielders. We got our small forward / midfielder, and then we would have got our 2 talls, and we would have got a backman, and then we would have got a ruck / forward.
We covered all the bases.
And most
I think
of those
as
were
well
best
I think best available as well when you talk about draft, for me, is more prevalent when we're talking about like A++ generational type players in that top echelon of the draft. And I don't think we have that in this draft. We did last year with the players at the top end of the draft, so that would then make more sense. But when a draft is so even, you could throw a blanket over a lot of these players and you end up walking away really happy. When you can do something like that, that's when I think you can start to tinker with the need side of things. If there's someone who has a more specific positional trait or a different type of skill sets that is more appealing than the other one, but you're kind of getting the same net outcome. That's why I think we can be a bit more needs-based, because you can throw a blanket literally over 10 or 15 players outside of maybe the first 2 or 3, and it's a pretty good outcome that you're going to walk away with.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 8. Who'd you have at number 8 for a Richmond-based power ranking?
I had Lockie Doverston.
Oh,
yeah. Big fan of Doverston.
He's got a bit of swagger, doesn't he? I know. I almost feel bad for him that people just naturally compare him to the Wizard, but that's just where we're at in our football circle, I guess, at AFL level. But what I actually like about it with Lockie Doverston, even though he's short, he's got a good penetrating kick, which doesn't always go hand in hand. Does have good goal sense. I think small forwards are really hard to place in drafts because clubs inevitably always need them, but they don't want to spend a pick too high to take them because they typically favor midfielders and forwards and things like that. But what do you like about Lockie? What do you think Lockie could add to us, and whose role would he take?
Well, I think he's that player that sort of brings a bit of magic, as weird as it sounds to say, where he just turns a game on his head really easy, and it's pretty typical to what Nick Watson does. But unfortunately, you need those players in a game. It's sort of helped Seth Campbell, because Seth Campbell seems to be the only real sort of small forward that goes in there and just turns magic on really easy. Then to my opinion, then allows Seth to move up the ground a bit more, maybe go half forward, maybe play some midfield time as well. I'm just not sure all of our small forwards are going to be what we need them to be. They all seem to be good at defensive side, but they don't seem to be as great offensively. That tends to hurt where they don't get around Lynch's feet or Jonty's, where Lockie Dobston, if you watch his highlights, he's a very good crummer.
Yeah.
Seems to read the play really well when the ruckman or the two forwards are going at it and just crumbs it. You need that in your team. We won flags with 3 players doing that. We seem to kind of gone away from those elite smalls that pressure and seem to find the goals really easy. And Seth Campbell does it. I just think you need another duo to help him out. And I think if it does, he might kick more goals this year because he doesn't have to be that small forward that gets tagged all the time.
True. You're right, it could free up. And I think we've all probably felt that Seth Campbell does naturally need to progress further up the field. So maybe there's a natural opening there for someone like a Dobston. Who comes in at number 9?
What's that? Noah Hibbins-Hargrave.
Oh.
Your boy.
I don't know if I spelled that right. Yeah, I like him. I think he can be a game changer. I just have an awful feeling that he's going to go to a more established club like a Geelong or a Hawthorn and tear it up. I think he would be great for us, the Richmond version in 5 years' time. I just don't know how he would go at the beginning of our rebuild in sort of digging us up through the trenches and getting down and dirty. I don't know. Where do you reckon he fits in? Because talent-wise, he can win a game with his own boot. He can do some amazing shit. Like he's got some talent.
Well, he doesn't have to play straight away, which I think a lot of people are sort of gone with the whole, if you draft a player, they have to play straight away. Not necessary. You could put him in, give him a year in the VFL. He does have a bit of deficiencies that he needs to improve on. He needs to put on a bit of weight. He's a very light player by his frame, which is not a knock on him. And most players come in, they're 17 going on 18, so they haven't hit their proper size of their body. Maybe a good full season in the VFL will give him a chance to build up. And I wouldn't be surprised if he takes Ryan Mansell's spot in that half forward flank. Maybe even a Jack Ross spot, just because he's a lot faster than Jack Ross. Could pinch it forward and definitely play in the midfield as well. I think he could be a Mr. Fix-It man like McIntosh was, in my opinion.
I've always felt that he would be a partner in crime with Taj Houghton. Could you imagine them two floating around the half-forward wing area?
Pressure on everyone.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool to watch. So having 2 players who could win games off their own boot like that would be pretty interesting. Yeah,
but you don't have to rush him, which means then you don't have to rush Taj if Taj is having a bit of a downtime. You want to give him a rest in the VFL, get his confidence up. You can bring in a prototypical, another small, nimble forward slash. He could probably go on the wing, really, if you wanted to him as well. He has that body type where he could run all day, every day, and not stop. So I'm definitely all for it.
And who have you got rounding out the top 10 for?
Jacob Farrow. Midfield slash defender or defender slash midfield. I think this one's probably coming a bit picky. It's a bit of a luxury pick as well. Some will say it's quite harsh because you got the Tom Brown, Josh Kipkis, Luke Traynor. You've got Banks as well. But I think he'd be a really good replacement for Jaden Short is sort of where I'm going to get him.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Short's got another year or 2 left into him, and I just think he's going to be getting squeezed out soon.
When I was thinking about Farrow the other day, he was the player I thought he would replace as well, was Jaden Short. It does some good work off the half-back line. Not too dissimilar to what Josh Lindsay does. Maybe not as lethal of a kick as Lindsay, but he's not a shabby kick by any stretch. But, yeah, it's interesting.
He's bigger than Lindsay as well.
I reckon as well that he would – I think Jacob Farrow would become a bit more favourable if he was playing in Melbourne. I don't like raising the whole Vic Bias thing, but I really do think that a lot of mock drafts have just got him going to West Coast because it's an easy out, but he's a really talented kid. And I actually won't be surprised on draft night if he goes a bit higher than what's projected for him. So what do we see? We see him kind of roughly in that 15, 16 to 17 range. I won't be shocked if he goes a fraction higher than that.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if he was to slide and somehow magically end up with Fremantle, who would snatch up pretty quick because he's rated as the best Fremantle WA prospect coming out of this year's draft. Hands down, he probably the best WA player.
And even though I did just say it's probably somewhat lazy to link him in mock draft sense, from the other side of the coin, from a West Coast and Fremantle side, for them it still makes perfect sense to take him if they think he's a fit for their club because you mitigate the go-home factor and you've got a quality player on your hands. So if it works for them positional-wise, I think it's a no-brainer for them to just do that.
It's a no-brainer for West Coast. It's definitely a no-brainer for West Coast. But it'd be nice to have. It's a lot of these players would be if you were to say trade with Essendon to get them to get Cooper Duff-Tyler. That's why I really don't have him in my ranking. I just don't think he's a need. A lot of this was a need base, like we said. I just don't think we need another ruck/forward or forward/ruck because I can't tell what he is right now. He could just be a midfielder that's 200 centimeters and just somehow is an insane player. But yeah, that's just what I have as my top 10 needs or wants for me.
No, I like it. And that's the thing. That's why, because the draft is so even, that there would be, if we did this again with 10 other people, there'd be 10 different looking top 10 lists. And that's the beauty of the draft. And that's why there's so much discussion about who we should take and where and why don't people like this player. It's because there's not that 2 or 3 standouts. We're like, got to have them. You can make cases for a lot of players in this draft in our range, which is good. Supercoach, I reckon we can almost categorically say that we will be bidmen again. I reckon we will bid, and bid some more to make these teams pay, just, if for nothing else, to make sure that our pick 38 comes in a lot closer.
Or just because we want Dylan Patterson that bad, which if
that too. I mean, wouldn't that be a great result if we was to somehow, as slim as it might be, if we were to somehow land Patterson, that would be an unbelievable turn of events.
Yeah. That I don't agree. That what you got down that's comment there I don't agree with because Basher Hooley was a very good player that would go for there's a game against Fremantle where he kept that ball on the defensive side and just kept chasing it and kept it in. Hooley was actually quite a good defensive player as well. He just got in the right spots all the time.
He did, but yeah, I think Basher has probably got Lindsay covered. But look, Lindsay, where do you place him? It's yeah, I don't know if you've seen this yet, Shannon, but sort of AFL, this popped up across my just random videos to watch the other night. He has the single, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I know there's people in chat who have seen his videos. He has got the single most unbelievably good draft simulator program that he made I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Was like, the videos he was doing was in relation to, there was one about Carlton and a bit and one about Essendon. So I had no care factor in the outcome of either of those two scenarios, but I was enthralled the entire time watching that video with how well he has made this program. It is, so people in chat have seen it. Get around it. It is, go check it out. It is mind-blowing what he has done to build this app, calculating all the different points, how the bids work. It shuffles all the order around. It's unbelievable. But yes, we'll have to try and do. Yeah, it's so good. And if you can somehow get that into the universe, you would be, you'll kick a lot of goals. But yeah, but no, happy to jump on the app. We'll send through some scenarios for sure.
Yeah, it's just very hard. Like you go do it, then you're like, oh, I picked a player. Then you got to scroll through to find out what the points that they cost, and then you got to get your phone out and get all the calculator out.
I'm on the draft pick calculator website. I'm on the draft Zero Hanger website with who's got what pick. It's bloody.
You got to work out where it slides back down to. Because I did the other day. It's like, oh well, if Harry Dean goes at this pick, we're like, where does he slide? What picks it slide to? I was like, oh, let me get my phone out and go through all the maths. And I'm like, it's roughly going to slide between pick 15 and 16, which won't be pick 15 and 16 because you're going to have to add 3 or 4 bids for players. It's going to slide down to pick 19 roughly. Like you can do it, and it's not a hard system. Like it's very easy to work out once you understand the point system in it for the bidding. But it's just way overly complicated than it needs to be. Why can't it just like the NBA? Just go where you imagine that. Imagine how easy that would have been if you could just turn and said Michael Jordan's son's going to the Chicago Bulls, whether he likes it or not. He's picked one, but
that's where he's going.
So he's just going because he wants him there.
But no, it's an impressive app, mate, and I'm happy to send through some scenarios to try and run for sure. Dr. Vol, we've got 4 spots left, 4 senior spots, so it can be 2 to 4 primary players, or we can do we're going to do at least 3 because of the 3 picks that we've got, and that would mean we could do a rookie list, and there could be an SP player,
national draft player as well.
I saw someone earlier. Were we linked to Setterfield and who was it? Was it Hobbs? The other one? No, I don't know. I don't know how deeply linked we are or what that is.
Yeah, I've heard Hobbs. I don't agree on that one.
I don't see a need. Yeah. He doesn't make sense for us, to be honest.
Yeah, not where we are. I think there's clubs out there that could use Hobbs. Like if Melbourne don't get that big body mid they need, I could see the D's calling him up and giving him a rookie contract. That's definitely a need. They need that big body mid inside player that knows how to use his core strength to win it. But Setterfield, too injury prone.
As well. Thank you, Tigers. Closey was the other one from Geelong.
Yeah, nah. I think Setterfield is just too injury prone, and Richmond have enough injuries to not really want to take another chance on injury prone players.
I guess what the hard part is whose spot would they be taking? Like in my mind, if we had to pick up a Hobbs or a Setterfield, I instantly just think they're going to be VFL depth and come in and play if these young kids or whatever can't play. And I don't know whether they'd be up for that because they could have probably done that at their current club. Well, there's that too, unless his knee injury was worse than what we thought. But I reckon that they would be looking at AFL minutes, which is fair enough for them. I just don't think we're in the market for that type of player. However, to Hazard's point, Harry Scott, you'd love to have a look at, and Elijah Hollins, I've been on record plenty of times saying that I would love to have a look at as a train-on player if he's got his shit together, because as a player, put the issues to one side, he is the exact player type that would fit into our side perfectly with what he can do with the ball on the field. So that one I'd be happy to explore.
I think if we did take Elijah Holland, I think would be maybe one of the only other few clubs, maybe a Geelong, that could take on a player who's had a bit of off-field troubles and probably sort him out. We've done it a few times and it's worked out quite well, because there's one named by Dustin Martin. I know some people go, he wasn't that bad. And there was a few times he was very close to being told to see you later when you're done. So he just got his stuff together like he was meant to. Maybe this is what Elijah Holland does need. They've been told, hey, see the door. If you find somewhere else, good luck.
Might have matured a bit.
We have the leadership.
I think so. And it would have to be on the shortest leash imaginable. Like one mistake, you're gone.
Jamal Uger-Hagen leash.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Supercoach, if we don't get CDT, Lewis Emmett would be the one that could be there. 35, he might still be there. Maybe not near the 50, but
he's not.
So Lewis Emmett would be the one.
30 for most drafts I've seen.
No, so he had a really good year last year as a bottom major, and that kind of had him projected to be in the top 15, the top 20. But then his main age, this year, he had a bit of a stinker. I think he might have had a couple of injuries, someone mentioned earlier, and he just hasn't been able to do it hasn't progressed how his bottom age year went. But he would be one that would be at that 35 to 50 range if we did need to find another ruckman. So, he could be there. Someone might take the punt a bit earlier.
Yeah. Definitely would be there. I think this was a September one that I had up recently. It was pick 23, and I saw Cal Toomey's Phantom one, and he definitely wasn't in the top 30. So,
yeah,
chance he's in that early 30s, right around what we need. So,
did you find this interesting as well? The list of the VFL players who are no longer at the club included Massimo Razzo. I was genuinely shocked to see that. I thought, and I guess a lot of the hype was probably fan-driven, I suppose, during the year about being a mid-season pickup. He had some inconsistencies in his game, but I felt as the year went on and he was playing up around the ball more, he was showing some great signs. I was a little bit shocked at his exiting of the club. I don't know whether that was his call, whether he wants to go just play somewhere else or do something different. I'm not too sure, but did you have any insight or thoughts on Razzo?
I've seen a few players leave and gone to, I think one was Port Melbourne. I'm guessing maybe the money was too good to say no to unless they get a call up to go to another club. Seems to me a lot of the club players are coming to Richmond to kind of build up their stature.
Yeah.
And they go off to another club that pays them a bit more money. Maybe they get a bit another contract to be a coach as well to earn a bit extra money. I don't hate it. It does suck, but it also does give us an opportunity to bring somebody else in. Maybe Elijah Holland through our VFL system to turn and say, hey, I know we got Hotton's brother in there as well to turn and say, look, show us quite well. If we have a spot in the mid-season draft, there's an opportunity. So
he looked okay too from his junior videos. Ollie Hotton looked good. I know obviously a bit of time has passed since then. If he can piece it together, that'd be good.
Just couldn't get his body right at the time. Yeah, that's all I think I ever saw was that they weren't angry about his game and he couldn't play the style. It was just his body just couldn't hold up, and then maybe he needs a year or two for his body to get solid. And he was playing for St Kilda, and let's be honest, it's not the best club to be playing for.
No, you'd want to get out of there anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Lockwood, where was the first comment? Will we rookie him? I don't know, so it's a really good question. I thought he had a really good back half of the year as well. I don't know. So what I'm not sure of, was this year his first year in NGA or was it his second? Because I'm not sure if it's like the time's expired to Category B rookie him, or if we've just said to him, you got to do a bit more. I'm not too sure, but I'd like to learn a bit more about that situation if we are looking to do that. Because having watched him, I thought he was definitely worth rolling the dice on for sure. Oh, there you go. Rezo's joined Werribee. Okay.
You could take him in the rookie draft if you take your 3 picks and then come rookie draft. We would still have a couple of spots left, and it's definitely possible to do it in there. Look, we've got some really good talent from the rookie draft, so
Richmond seems to have from there.
Yeah, Liam Baker's one of them, and Seth Campbell's one of them as well. So
yeah. There you go. Well, that's probably a wrap for tonight. Thanks for jumping on tonight, Shannon. Much appreciated. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Always fun to talk draft stuff. Always fun to see the different opinions and views. It's going to be a fascinating night to see how it all transpires. We've got, 3 weeks to go, roughly.
16 days.
16 days. It can't come quick enough, honestly.
No,
but
it's late night.
I know. Things will start to ramp up, I reckon, as it gets closer. I suppose everyone's hanging for the Cal Toomey Phantom draft.
Yeah.
The one a few days out. That's top 10 in particular. You're right. Top 10 he nails, I think, for a wide range of reasons, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think
gets his top 10 right, and then after that, it's all just fun and guessing.
Yeah, exactly right. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? That's why it's fun doing these types of things, just guessing and trying to put the pieces together. It's interesting to see how it's all going to work. But I think no matter what everyone's views are on who we will take or who we shouldn't take, I reckon that we're in a win-win situation no matter which combination we go with. And I think that's probably the most important thing, that we should be able to land 2 kids that should walk into the club and hopefully make a difference. That will be very, very good to see what the club do there. But thank you again for joining tonight, Shannon. And until next time, go Tigers.